think it's now time for us to begin with the third day of the world's first virtual dental implant expo. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have with us as the first speaker, Dr. Shiva Shankar, a name synonymous in the Indian Prosthodontic Society. Now, this is because of the kind of work that he's been doing in research, in digital dentistry, and in technological advancements with regards to dentistry. Dr. Shiva Shankar is the director of Confident Dental Laboratory. He was a former professor and HOD at the Department of Prosthodontics. He graduated and post-graduated in prosthodontics from M.R. Ambedkar Dental College, Bangalore, India in the year 1998. He was the first dentist from India to be certified as a CAD/CAM trainer for CEREC from ISCD. He is a digital dental enthusiast. He has been actively working with different digital technologies in dental sciences for the last 13 years. He's been into guided implant planning from the last 5 years for different implant systems. He's been a key opinion leader and a certified trainer for intraoral scanners and CAD software of 3Shape and Exocad. He's been using 3D printers like Formlabs, 3D Systems, NextDen printers, metal printers, and has been a former trainer for CEREC. Without much further ado, ladies and gentlemen, opening the third day of the world's first virtual implant expo with the first session from Dr. Shiva Shankar. Over to you, Dr. Shiva.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, all the participants. Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Team Dentist channel online. I thank the whole team, Ruben and the team, and of course, Melvin, my good friend, for having invited me to, to be part of this wonderful event, which is the world's first virtual dental expo. Yeah, and good morning to all the participants from whichever part, whether from India or whichever part of the world you've been logged into it. So as Ruben spoke, or has already been advertised in the social media regarding the presentation of mine, I am going to talk on guided implant placement for precise and predictable restorations today. This is going to be my topic of presentation, which I'm going to talk for the next 45 minutes of our presentation. See, dentistry as a science has grown with the primary goal. I think I'll just move a little bit. I think I'll keep, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, dentistry as a science has grown with the primary goal of replacing the lost teeth or tooth structures, and such replacements have to restore the form, the function, and aesthetics. Because why am I putting this statement in this beginning of my presentation is that, see, when a patient walks into a dental practice, he comes looking for a replacement of the tooth. Implant is one of the treatment modalities which has been offered to the patient. So the patient does not see the implant, the patient sees the teeth. Ultimately, what he wants is a replacement for his function, form, and aesthetics of the teeth. So it's very important that we think about the teeth. Implant is the part of it. When we do an implant over which we have to give a teeth. Implant-based restorations have become a standard procedure to treat edentulous or dentulous patients today. In the initial days, a successful implant was measured in its integration with the bone, as it was led mostly by surgeon's perspective. In the initial days, in the beginnings of implant dentistry, it was mainly, osseointegration was the term. Where there was bone, the implant was being placed. Nothing wrong with that. But as we went across, as I spoke to you in my opening statement, is that the patient has come for a teeth rather than an implant. Implant is just a treatment modality which we have as a dentist have offered to it. So ultimately, what is happening is what has to happen is the success of an implant for a patient. For us as a dentist, if an osseointegration takes place, it's a success. But whereas for a patient, the success is when it is functionally integrated into it. So today, a successful implant is that one demonstrates the functional integration. When I talk about functional integration, what it means is that it is in harmony with the bone, the soft tissues, and also the function of the patient. That is what we call it as a functional integration. So we need to be we need to orient our treatment plan in such a way that it is functionally integrated into this one. So what is an ideal implant placement? An ideal implant placement for me as a prosthodontist, as a technical person, as a dental technician, I can call myself, ideal placement facilitates the establishment of favorable forces on the implants and the prosthetic components while ensuring the aesthetic outcome. To increase the predictability of the success, it is essential that the implants are placed prosthetically. When we say prosthetically, what I talk about is the crown down technique. I can refer to as a crown down technique. When we talk about a crown down technique, is that we first visualize how the prosthetic is going to be, how the crown is going to come, or how the restoration is going to come. Later, we can see, we can try and adjust the implant position in such a way that it accommodates a prosthetically placed position, rather than, in the initial days when we used to place an implant where the bone is, there's nothing wrong in it. I'm not telling you that it is completely wrong, but where there's a bone. And ultimately, when we used to come to the aesthetics, when it comes to the prosthetic rehabilitation, it used to not to be very ideal way of doing it. Whereas today, with all the advent of technology, we can do that. As the demand of implant procedures have increased, different approaches have been used to arrive at a predictable outcome. And one of the main outcomes is a computerized enhanced planing and guided placement of implants is being used for more than a decade now. It is, I can say, more than 15 years. We've been working on this computer enhanced planning and placing of implants. Digital technology has enabled, what has enabled us? Digital technology has enabled us to visualize in 3 dimensions the information about the availability of the bone, the ideal position of the restoration via a computerized cone beam computerized tomography or a prosthetic software. So this is what has visualization has helped us. And it is because in the initial days when the implantology started, it was only IOPAs or OPGs which were taken, and it was mainly a 2-dimension. And it was very difficult for a practitioner to visualize the 3-dimensionally how an implant plays. Whereas today, with the advent of CBCT, we are very fortunate enough. We are in the era of implant dentistry where precision and predictability is the hallmark of dental implantology today, because of the visualization and the prosthetic software what we have. We can call it that we are in the cusp of the technological marvel which we are going through. As a result of this visualization, it has become very important for us, very easy for us to plan and communicate and execute the implant placement and the prosthesis in the precise and a predictable manner. You can see that in the video below. You can visualize what is the angulation of the implant, what you're placing, what is the angulation of the abutment you need to place. Everything is predictable, even to an extent where if you want to do a bone grafting, you can predict how much of bone amount is there, how the prosthetic outcome is going to come. All the things can be visualized even before we go into this actual surgical placement of the patient. For me, it is like GPS. See, for me, what it is GPS. See, for example, today morning, this is a morning screenshot which I took today from my house to my workplace, my laboratory. I put a GPS map today. All of us, in cities like Bangalore or any other place, of course, today it is because of Corona, we don't do it. But in the earlier days, we used to just put on the Google map and check how far is it going to take time and which is the best route to follow through this, because we have the technology at our go. So you can see today morning, I just put it across and it showed that I have 2 routes to go. One is a 1 minute earlier route and one is a little 1 minute later route, but it doesn't matter, but sometimes it changes. So the same way we want predictability in our restorations, in our implant placements today. So for me, guided implant is all about GPS. When we talk about GPS, it is guided prosthetics and surgery. You can see that the concept of implantology is changed today in such a way that we talk about prosthetics and then the surgical outcome part of it. Because at the end of the day, again and again, I'm reiterating that the prosthetics is the important part when we are talking about it. And that is why we have to do it. That's why for me, GPS in dentistry is guided prosthetics and surgery part of it. What does this guided placement denote? The guided placement denotes the placement of an implant through a guide, a template designed on a software, utilizing the patient's CBCT and a prosthetic data using a dedicated surgical kit. Because this, each word of this is very, very important to understand, because what happens is that everybody, most of the dentists are interested in doing a guided surgery. But when we talk about, when we say a plan has been done and given to them, then they start asking questions whether, why should I use a special kit? Can I not use the old kit and can I not work with it? It is not so. The whole thing is precise and calculated in such a way that the depth of the drill, the angulation of the drill, the angulation of the implant placement, everything is being predetermined. And if you need predetermined, you need predetermined instrument kit for it to be delivered, the precision to be delivered there. Now, what are the advantages of a guided implant placement? It is precise. You have a pre-treatment of a surgical and restorative planning. It is accurate and clinical procedures are there. Treatment can be totally restorative driven. It complements a team effort because your prosthodontist, your oral surgeon, your periodontist, everybody can sit across and arrive at a conclusion as to what best and how best we can do it. It is less invasive. It has got shorter procedure time, and it allows custom tool components. That is, custom tool components can be devised and it can be used. Now, coming to the types of guided implant placements, there are two types of guided implant placement. One is a pilot drill system, another is a fully guided systems. It is basically the drills what you use, that is what is there. When we talk about a pilot drill system is a single drill system wherein we use only one drill. Typically, a 2 mm drill is used. And then, you know what, this is a universal guided implant placement. You do not have to have specific drills for specific implant drill for it. You just have to, usually the provider can provide you a drill, which is a 2 mm, which is a depth mark drill. Here what happens is that you can get at a particular depth, the implant is there. So here the initial angulation and the depth is being marked using this one. So once you do the first drill, you remove the guide and then you proceed with your regular surgical kit and do it. So you can see here a small video representing what is a pilot drill system. And you can see it's a small drill. It's only 1 2 mm drill which is being used here. You can see that this is a spade marking drill wherein we can give a small tissue, this one tissue opening for the 2 mm drill to go in. So this is the pilot drill. This is a 2 mm drill, and you can see that sleeve which is there, which is already a pre-depth marked drill. So you just have to go there till it touches the sleeve. Then you know that exactly whatever is your planned position or planned implant depth, you have received it. Then you can remove the surgical guide and then go ahead with your protocol, your tissue punch. Your tissue punch can be done. And then if you have a depth marking drill, a depth marking gauge in your this one, you can use that and then use the drill. Only thing you have to be careful is that you cannot change your angulation. Your hand has to be very still in this, otherwise the angulation can change. The drill depth is not going to be a problem, but your angulation might change in this position which is there. So in this case, it's mainly for, you know what, if you're doing a sinus lift and you want to know, you don't want to perforate the sinus wall, you can use this pilot drill system and it will help you out in a much way. Or you want to use your existing surgical drill and you know that your hand control and everything is so good about it, then you can use this pilot surgical guide and then you can place the implant. The final marking drill. You can be rest assured in the system that it is not going to go deeper than what you have already done the osteotomy. Then you place your implant. Finally, you can place your implant using your regular surgical guide. You can see that the precise implant and predictable implant placement can be done using this system. Here's the clinical case. Just to show you, this is a clinical case of my friend Dr. Mithunjit. So here we had planned a pilot drill system for a Bredent implant. You can see the information which is provided there, the sleeve information, the drill length, and the implant, and the planning on the left-hand side. You can see the planning, where you can see the planning which is there, and it is prosthetically done so that the screw channel access comes on the central fossa of your tooth, central fossa of your restored tooth. Now you can see this. You know what we have? Done here a series of radiological, because Dr. Mithunjit wanted to be very sure that he is correct. So what he's done is he's been kind enough to share me the pictures here. So you can see that it's a pilot drill here, a pilot drill system. Then you can see the radiograph here without the bone, without the osteotomy preparation. Here with the guide, you can see the sleeve here. This sleeve, what is the titanium sleeve? You can see the representative of the titanium sleeve here. And you can see this drill marking there, the pilot drill which goes into it. It's an 8 mm implant. So you can see that the 8 mm implant has gone here. Then the final drill of the implant system without the surgical guide. And then the implant placed here. So you can see that a pilot drill system will go into this concept, and you can work on this way when you're talking about this. Now the next system, which is the fully guided surgical placement. What do you mean by fully guided surgical placement is that right from the tissue punch till you ratchet the implant inside, you can do with the drill itself. Only thing is this requires a special surgical kit of that particular implant system. Whether you are using X, Y, Z brand, all brands have their own guided surgical kit because they have their own protocols to do it. That is how they had done it. Now, how do we see this? You can see a representative of a fully guided system. You can see a different windows wherein we tissue punch, the marking drills using the guide. You can see that you can using the guide, it has been there, placing it and including the implant placement in the last right hand corner. You can see the implant is also placed using the surgically driven drill. So this is what is a fully guided system in a nutshell, which we are talking about when we are doing the implant system. You can see that the implant is ratcheted using through the drill so that you are very, very precise and you do not err in any way. Here, if your guide has been stable, then it should be perfectly the same position what you had planned in your initial planning. We will look at a little later, we will look at some clinical cases. See, this is another radiographic case again from Dr. Mithunjit. This is another Straumann case which we have done. You can see that this is a fully guided protocol which has been followed. The radiograph which is there, you can see the sleeves and the radiograph which has been followed, and then you can see the precise implant placement which has been placed. Now there are different types of guides also. This is the type of the guide system what you're going to use. Then you have different types of guides. The different types of guides are tooth supported guide, a mucosa supported guide, or a bone supported guide. A tooth supported guide is typically for a partially edentulous situation. This is one of the most stable guide and the easiest guide to use it because it is totally stabilized using the neighboring teeth or the remaining teeth in the patient's mouth. Then you have a tissue supported or a mucosa supported guide, which is for edentulous situation, which you can see on the right hand side of this one, a tissue supported or a mucosa supported guide. And then you have a little advanced guide, which is called as a bone supported guide. What it means is that in a bone supported guide, you are reflecting the flap and the guide is seated on the bone itself. That is why it is called as a bone supported guide. So that is what is the difference between a tooth supported, a tissue supported, and a bone guide and a bone supported guide. So these are the different types of guides which are available. Now, if you want such picture perfect placement of implants, everything in a way you have to follow things. If you want to achieve a success rate in whatever we are doing, there is a standard operating procedures which you're following or the protocols which you have to follow. The protocol to follow for optimal success in placement of implants and restoration using a guided implant. So let us look into what are the protocols you need to follow to get this optimal placement, what I have shown in the radiograph here. You can see a perfect all-on-4 placement on the right and a couple of implant, which is quite parallel implants, which has been placed in the partially edentulous situation. Now, workflow for a successful digital planning and execution is that first is it requires a CBCT. The second is it requires a diagnostic cast or a digital impression. A virtual wax-up is done. A computerized guided planning program is there, and a corresponding surgical kit is required. Now let us look at CBCT. For a CBCT in a partially edentulous situation, there are certain protocols which you need to tell your person as to what you need to do. How do you take a CBCT? So when you're taking a CBCT, it is always preferred that you have the upper and lower jaw a little bit of open. So CBCT to be made with an open mouth so that the maxillary and mandibular teeth are apart. Why is it important that the maxillary and mandibular teeth should not contact? Is that when you are planning it, you can see the CBCT or the DICOM image or the 3D rendering from the occlusal surface also. Otherwise, what happens if the teeth are in contact with each other, it will be very difficult for the software to cut it off in the occlusal level to see it in a proper way. So if there is a 5 millimeter apart, opening apart, then it is much easier. So usually what happens in a CBCT, when you're sending a patient to a CBCT, the radiologist, what they do, they have a small tab. They ask the patient to bite on the tab and do it. Most of the time, the tab is so thin that it is like an occlusion. So you can tell the radiologic technician saying that I need the teeth to be apart, so he can use a bigger tab, or you can alternatively ask the patient to bite on a cotton roll on the top of it, and then you can see that, so that you get an open CBCT to be done. And if the patient, another tip is that if the patient has got a very, a very flabby tissue, a very, the tissues are coming in when the patient opens the mouth, the tissues are so much that the cheek comes onto the teeth surface. Then what you can do is that you can give a couple of tissue rolls or cotton rolls to your patient and tell the patient that just before, or you instruct your radiologist that before he takes a CBCT, they can wet the cotton and put it on the in the buccal sulcus, so that the tissues are apart and there is no soft tissue overlap on the teeth, so that your CBCT becomes a much more, because you should understand that if how good your DICOM image is, based on that is what is going to be your data. It's like, how good your data is, that is what you're going to get. If your data is not great, then your planning may not be so perfect into it. Then what you do, then once you do it, then you take a impression and send it across to the lab, or yourself can do it, or we have the intraoral scans which we can do. But for a fully edentulous situation, it is called as the dual scan protocol. It's a little slightly different protocol. That is why I have mentioned here is that you need to do a different protocol for it. It is not just take a CBCT and get it done. Because what happens is that if you take just a CBCT here, what will happen is that the software does not know the prosthetic position. We will not, when we are planning in the position in the software, we will not know where the prosthetic position is. In a dentulous situation, the teeth gets merged into it so that we can get the prosthetic position. Whereas in the edentulous situation, because there is soft tissue, it is very difficult for the software to match a soft tissue to a soft tissue on it. That is why we advise a dual scan protocol in it. What is this dual scan protocol? Let us look into it. A dual scan protocol means that you should prepare a denture for the patient first. Because as I told you, it is a reverse planning. We need to do prosthetics and then we will do the planning part of it. The reverse planning is that you do a complete denture for the patient, or if the patient has got already a complete denture, reline that complete denture. Do not use the same complete denture. You need to reline it because you need perfect adaptation to the soft tissue. If there is no perfect adaptation to the soft tissue, then the resultant guide which is going to be fabricated is not going to fit in a precise way in the mouth, and then resultant, the implant is not going to be placed in a proper way. So that is what is going to be there. That is why your fit of your denture has to be perfect in the patient's mouth. And as I told you, we need upper and lower segmentation to be done. For this, what I personally advise is that we need to put a bite in this, a putty bite. You can ask the patient to use it. You do a putty bite and tell the patient that when you are going to, because you need this putty bite, because when the patient opens the mouth, the denture will pop up in the CBCT center. Then again, your CBCT is going to get wasted. So what you do is you give a silicone bite. I usually like to do a putty bite. I tell my dentist that you make a putty bite with a little open position. and give it to the patient and tell the patient, train the patient that whenever he goes to a CBCT center, he needs to reinsert this bite and then bite on this bite so that the dentures are firmly seated onto it. And then what you need to do is you need to put some gutta percha markers on it. The radiographic markers are put on this surface. You know what, you can take a gutta percha or you get radiographic markers or radiographic balls available today. If you can ask your people, they can give it to you, or a simple gutta percha. Don't put the teeth, don't drill the teeth and put gutta percha into it. That is an old technique. Now you just need to place 4 or 5 points on the flanges. What I normally advise is that in the canine region, two in the maxillary canine region, 2 in the molar region of the maxillary ridge, and 1 in the mid-palatine area. And in the lower, there may be 4 again the 4 points on the buccal flange and 2 points on the lingual flange. And whenever you're making 2 points on the lingual flange, see that it is not in the straight line with the buccal flange, buccal area where you put the gutta percha, so that it's easier when we are talking about, when we are done the CBCT, because this radiographic marker is going to orient it in the software. I will be showing you some slides a little later as to how do you orient it. So this is what you need to do from your side. Please, without a denture, don't try to do a edentulous guided surgery, because it is not going to be precise. Once it goes to the CBCT, you can send this instructions to the radiologist. Please instruct your radiologist or technician who is going to do the scan to take the first scan with the dentures in the mouth and putty bite block in the patient's mouth. It is very, very important. Sometimes the radiologists do not understand this. Tell them, boss, please ask the patient to put the denture and the bite what we have sent, and ask the patient to bite it firmly, and then you take a CBCT with the denture in the patient's mouth. And you need 2 CBCTs. One is you need to take it in the patient's mouth with the denture and with the scan markers. That is, your gutta percha markers have to be in position, and then you need to take a CBCT. Once he's done the CBCT, the second CBCT, you have to instruct him that I do not want it in the patient's mouth. I want a scan of only the denture. They will say that, no, it is not possible with the patient. No, tell them that I do not want it. It is possible. What you need to do is that you need to take the denture out. And today, most of the newer CBCT machines have a small plate, which is for a denture scan. So you can put a denture scan. If he doesn't have a denture scan, ask him to use your water cup or a styrofoam cup and put the denture on top of it. And then he can take a scan of the denture. So once he does the scan has to be in such a way that the tissue the gutta percha markers have to be there. So now ask your radiologic technician to send you both the CDs in a separate file. One is patient with the denture in the patient's mouth. Second one is that of only the denture. So this is what is called as a dual scan. It is mandatory that you do a dual scan protocol for an edentulous region for the precision and preciseness of it. You should understand that why am I talking this is that this denture is going to get converted once I plan in the software. This is what is going to get converted into a guide. This is going to be 3D printed, and then this is what is going to be converted into a guide. Now let us look into clinical cases. I would like to, just acknowledge all the doctors who have been gracious enough, my good friends who've been gracious enough to give me the clinical cases, because as you know, I'm a prosthodontist, but my main time is in the laboratory. I am a back-end office for most of the dental clinics or the clinicians. So I would like to acknowledge their pictures here. Now, this is one of the cases which we have done. You can see that a posterior segment, a partially edentulous situation in the posterior segment. You can see an edentulous intraoral picture. Then once the scan has arrived, we did the scan. This patient did not give it. This doctor gave us a physical model. You can see a physical model was scanned in our laboratory. And then we have designed 4 crowns on it. These 4 crowns these are virtual crowns. This is called as the virtual wax-up. And this virtual wax-up, we take it and superimpose it on the software, and we start planning the implant. You can see that the implants are planned in such a way that you can see that it has been planned in such a way that it is on the prosthetically placed. You can see the teeth here, you can see the occlusion here, you can see the occlusion here, and the implant position in such a way that based on the bone availability as well as on the occlusal surface, which you can see. The neighboring teeth also been placed here. Then you can see that now once we have placed the implant, we have placed it on the how the bone is and how it is. Then we can also start planning whether we can use, see, all the 4 implants are planned in such a way that it has to have parallel abutments. So we can, we can orient the abutments in such a way that you can see that 3.4 and 3.5, you can use a straight abutment, whereas 3.6 and 3.7, if you want the occlusal channel, you want a screw retained restoration, you need to have an angulated channel, angulated abutment. You can see that the angulation is here. You can see the angulation, and you can see that it comes on the screw channel axis, which is there, so that you can get a screw channel axis which is on the angulated place. So it is very easy for us once we have the planning to do it in all the whole plans which has to be done in such a way. You can see here another guide which is then seated, the same case which is seated in the patient's mouth. This is a surgical guide with the titanium sleeves for the guided kit. And you can see that you can verify, usually there will be a window here. You can verify the window in such a way that it is, you can verify the window verification window so that they're completely seated, because the predictability is on how completely or how beautifully the guide is seated inside the patient's mouth. Then you find the protocol, you follow the protocol, tissue punch, you put the tissue punch, remove the guide, and you can remove the tissue punch here. And then you put back the guide, and then you follow the protocol which is there for that particular implant system. You can see that the regulated implant, the drills which are there from the same variation which we can do it, so that you can place the implant successfully. Now once this is there, you can see that the implant has also been ratcheted inside using the surgical guide only. This is a fully guided case, and you can see that within 2 days of post-operative surgery, you can see that so beautiful cuff formation is formed, and you can put some sutures if you have opened up a little bit, or you can put a healing cap and leave it so that you are very sure that the cuff is formed. There is no requirement for a second stage surgery. After 2 weeks, once you place this one, you can see that so beautifully it is formed on the X-ray. 2 weeks post surgery, you can see the healing, so beautiful healing. You can see the tissue cuff which is there. Then you can take then it is after another few days, we can take if you want to do a digital process, you put a scan flag onto it or the scan marker onto it, scan it and then do it, or put your impression post, take a regular impression, send it to your laboratory, and the laboratory can do it. You can see such precise and predictable restorations can be done with this. Another case, let us go this time with an immediate implant placement. This is a case which has come to our place where these two teeth have to be extracted because this is broken down. These 2 teeth have to be taken out. 2 central incisors and 2 implants have to be placed. And the dentist asked me whether dentist wanted it to be a immediate placement. So what we did is that we did a virtual extraction. You can see the yellow line. The yellow line is called as a virtual extraction. So we have done a virtual extraction on the software. You can see the dimpling effect on the software. You can see that, and this can be, in conjunction with your dentist, you can say, okay, what is going to be my jumping distance? How much of depth I want? All these things can be predictable. You can discuss with your dentist. So it's a teamwork. Most of the cases in abroad, most of the times the dentists themselves are planners, but in India, most of the dentists are not going to be planning. They send it to a laboratory like my laboratory. I am going to plan for them. So there is an interactive session where we can talk about it, what they want, how they want it to be done, or you can write it down and send a prescription as to what is your expectation out of it, so that the tentative treatment plan can be done. You can see that the same teeth, I have used it at the prosthetic position, planned implant placement. On the day of placement, you can see that the tooth was extracted because there is fractured. On both the sides, it's fractured. On the day of extraction, atraumatically, the teeth were extracted, and 2 perfectly parallel implants have been placed. And you can see that, you can see the distance what we have given. You can see the depth on which it is there. Because this implant is an immediate extraction implant, it was not immediately loaded. So the dentist has placed the cover screw here, and close the flap. And then we can also create an ovate pontic here so that we get an emergence profile, and then use a Maryland bridge here. An acrylic Maryland bridge was done, and then it has been placed there. You can see that the patient walks into your practice and walks out of your practice with all the treatment plan which you have done within within a couple of hours with this, that everything is ready, pre-planned, pre-ready, everything is done, and so that you can give the predictability to the patient here. Another case here for again 3 implants which has been there. You can see a digital planning here. Here the dentist himself plans this case. So you can see a intraoral scan, 3 implants placed in this position. Here also it is an extraction case. In this case, which has been extracted and then it has been done. You can see the implant placement done, implant planning. There you can see the implant planning there. Because it is immediately extracted, you can see the implant planning going through. The implants are planned in such a way that it is prosthetically good. And then on the day of the surgery, you can see that the doctor is placing an implant. Through the guide, the implant has been driven into the surgical site. And you can see 3 implants which has been placed here. And you can see the immediate post-operative where it is there. And then on the day of the on the day of loading of the implants, you can see the scan flag. These are called as the scan markers. If you are doing digital protocol, you want an intraoral scan to be done. You don't want to take a digital, you don't want to take a manual impression. These are like impression posts. These are digital impression posts. And these are called as the scan markers or scan flags or whatever company calls them. And it is specific for an implant. Because what does is that once we import this data into our software, the software will automatically detect which implant is based on the software, or the doctor has to tell us what is the implant and what is the size of the implant. Then based on the scan marker, we can detect where the implant is, what is the position of the implant, how deep the implant is, and where the implant is positioned. You can see that it is the same position what has been done pre-planned, and this is the post-planned. You can see that the abutments are done and 3 crowns, 3 bridges are done here. And you can see on the day of the implant, you can see the emergence profile which has been there, and you can place the implants at such beautiful restorations can be done, because this is something that the patient is going to be thrilled, because it is going to give him the form, the function, and aesthetics. Everything is being covered in this particular case. Now, when you are doing it, so when you are doing this, you can see another case here. 3 implants which is there. This has been another case which we have done it in our laboratory. You can see 3 implants were being planned. You can see the position of the implants, the position of the screw channels, because I'm showing you the screw channels because you can see that how good you can get the screw channels there for a screw retained restoration. And this is called as the drilling protocol. This is a case which has been done for Straumann implants. And you can see Straumann implant tells you in 3-4 position, I'm going to use what is going to be the cutter, what is the drill I'm going to use, what is the sleeve height, and what it is going to use, and all these things. This is called as the drill protocol. This is very, very important. You have to keep it in next to you. This also tells you what is the implant you're using. It is using a 4.1 rock solid implants, SLA rock solid active implant, a 12 mm implant here, a 4.8 by 10 mm, and a 4.8 implant, what I have been placing here. So this is what is going to be there. And this doctor has been done. You can see the surgical guide, which has been there, which has got the positions of the sleeves and the sleeves inside the patient's mouth. You can see that it is inside the patient's mouth, the radiograph. And then the implant placement of the final drill of the implant, which has been there. You can see the implants which are parallel here. You can see the implant parallelism, which has been maintained here. And then you can see 2 implants placed immediately after the after the osteotomy is done, the implants have been placed. And this is the prosthetic phase where we have done the implant planning. After the case is done, the doctor has put a scan marker and sent the implant planning, the digital impression to us. And then once the digital impression has come, we have, we have done the crowns on it. You can see the digital, this is totally a digital protocol which has been followed, a digital model with a digital lab analogs here. And then you can see the implant has been placed. And then, this case, I think in a couple of days, this doctor is going to do. So this case is just hot out of it, and you can see this. On the model, I'm showing you the prosthetic phase. You can see this, how beautifully we have predicted where the screw channels are there. You can see that this is a pre-planning. This is before when we planned our case. This is what was the planning here, and you can see the executed phase. You know what, I will, in the next, probably in the coming presentations, I will show a complete protocol for it. But right now, because of the, I don't want to drag on too much. We are showing this, I'm just showing you this clinical phase. You can see the screw channel so beautifully, it is oriented. You can see the 6, you can see the 4, and you can see the 7, so nicely done. And you can see the screw channels which is there. This is the preciseness and predictability of a restoration here. You can see another case is an edentulous situation. A completely edentulous case. We have done a denture, a dual scan. I'm not going through a deeper into it because of the, because of the paucity of the time. So you can see that a dual scan protocol has been used here. The denture has been seated here. You place the drilling channel, you place the stabilization pins in here. You're doing edentulous guides. You need to stabilize it before even removing from the occlusion. So you put it across, put the stabilization pins. Once the stabilization pins are there, then you remove the top part of your denture and the surgical guide is ready. Use the protocol, follow the protocol, and then place the same protocol which has been there. And you can see that 4 implants have been placed, and this is immediately post implant which has been done. You can see that so precise and so clean the surgical site is, except for the surgical. These are the stabilization pins wounds, and these are the 4 multi-unit multi-unit abutments which are there, because this is the immediate loading case. And you can see that 4 temporary titanium cylinders are there. This is the denture. This is the denture with the dentist had fabricated, and this is a 3D printed denture with the screw channel holes. You can see the screw channel holes have already been done in the 3D printing. And then you can see that you can see this so precise your placement is that you can now pick it up, use your, use ProTemp or some material used to it, and you can check the occlusion, and you see that the patient walks out with the denture. You adjust the occlusion in such a way that it is non-interfering, and then you can send the patient off. The patient walks out of your practice, maybe a denture in a day concept or whatever you call it as, you can do it. Now, coming to the last part of my presentation is that how accurate are these? Yes, I showed you a lot of protocols, and how accurate are these guided implant planning? Are they accurate enough? We ran a small study, because I was a former professor of Krishna Devaraya College of Dental Sciences. So there, we ran a small study there. I'm not going too deep into it. I'm just showing a couple of screenshots of that. What we did is that the pre-CBCT of it, on the planning software, we did it. And we used a special software, and we superimposed, once the implant is placed, after when the patient came back for the prosthetic phase, we took his approval, and then we got a re-CBCT done. The CBCT done after the implant placement has been done. And then what we did was we superimposed these positions. Using a special software by the company, we superimposed these implant positions with our planned implant position and the actual implant position. What we did, you can see this, the green and red, the blue and red position, what we have done is a superimposition of the implant which has been done. You can see that the overlapping of the implant has been done. And you can see this is the analysis report which the software is given out. And you can see that, yes, it is not, it is not 0, 0, but you can see that it is so precise that in the region of 4, 7, you can see that it is exactly the same position what we have done. You can see that 0. 0 means there is no discrepancy between the planned position and the executed position. In 136, it is 0.1. And it is 0.3 in some cases, it is 0.08 in such situations. And you can see the angular deviation is 0.9 degrees. It is less than a degree, which is actively corrected in the prosthetic phase, which can be done. This is another case which we did. Again, I'm sorry. This is another case which we did here. What I have done is I've just superimposed the implant positions using the software. I have not used CBCT here. This is the case which we have done. Another case of where the dentist has placed 3 implants. It was surgically planned, and the dentist has sent us for a prosthesis using a scan markers. You can see an intraoral picture of this. The scan marker has come, and what we did is that what I did was that I took the STL from the planned software, and I superimposed it in the present position. You can see from the occlusal surface that almost it is the same. It is a very, very minor deviation which is occurred. And this deviation can be due to a lot of other reasons which is there. And if you see any literature search, if you do it, it is shown that anything within a 1.5 degree average deviation is an accepted deviation for a guided implant placement. And you can see that it is pretty much in line with whatever the implant placement is done. And this is what can be done here. Now let us do a little bit of discussion before I come to my conclusion, is that guided surgery is a tool that can be used preoperatively to plan the best locations of the implant regarding adequate bone and the soft tissue quality and quantity, as well as to integrate the prosthetic workflow. Mucosa supported guides allow for flapless implant positions, which reduces the postoperative swelling, pain, and seems to accelerate the formation of biological seal between the soft tissue and implant related surfaces, as the tissue is not reflected and sutured back together. To pre-plan locations also allows to more easily and predictably prepare immediate loading provisional restorations by knowing exactly where the implant should be placed and to get the right prosthetic support. The main challenge remains the transferring of 3D implant planning accurately from the computer screen to the patient's oral activity. Preoperative and intraoperative factors are errors taken place during the planning phase could cause implant malposition. The dual scan protocol, that is the patient when he's taking a scan, if he's moved or the scan surface is moved, all these things can do it. So the first crucial factor is that affecting the clinical result accuracy is the stability of the surgical template during the CBCT analysis and during surgical procedure with respect to the surgical template positions on the bone with the pins. The second crucial factor affecting the computer guided surgery accuracy is the correct angle insertion of the implant drills. It relates to the area of the surgery and mouth opening capacity. The third crucial factor, the accuracy related to the bone volume, bone architecture, and of course your software, and also the 3D printer which you use. You should use good 3D printers. It is not some run-of-the-mill 3D printers which is there. In conclusion, I would like to conclude today's presentation by saying guided implant placement and prosthetic rehabilitation of dentulous or edentulous arches using mucosa supportive guide is successful. Proper preoperative and intraoperative protocols, if have been followed, it will become a success. Thank you for a patient listening.
We start with the first question. What specific conditions to use when using bone supported guide?
Yeah, hi. You know what? It is when bone supported guide is only when you have, you want to do something with the bone reduction. You want to do, you want to modify the bone architecture before the implant placement has to be done. A bone guided supported guide is more useful in it. Otherwise, why do you want to unnecessarily reflect the flap and then do it? It's only when, especially in edentulous situations, when you have an all-on-4 situation, things like that, where the bone is very, very, very sharp and thin, and you need to, your neck of your implant is not going to come there. So you need to flatten the bone. In those situations, you would like to use a bone supported guide.
Thank you, sir. We move to the next question. Sir, please, can you clear me the eventual case again with a guide plan?
Okay, I think, what we will do is that I will just, then I have to go back to my screen presentation, but I am not put in too many slides in it, doctor. So what you can do is you just type, you can send a mail to me on my email. I will share you the protocols for it. How do we do it? Because, if I go on telling, I need to open another presentation and go through the whole presentation. But simple is that first and foremost is when you're doing an edentulous case is that the first thing is that you need to do a denture for the patient. This is the first and basic thing. If the patient has got a denture, kindly reline the denture so that the fit is a perfect fit. Then you add some markers onto it, like Gataparcha markers, as I told you, in maxilla and mandible, 4 to 5 markers, and send him for a CBCT using a dual scan protocol, and then send the DICOM files to us. So we can do a planning there. And when you do a planning, then we can, you know what we can do in that cases, if there is going to be bone flattening, bone reduction has to be done, then we can do a bone flattening. Otherwise, what we can do, whether it's an all-on-4 or all-on-6, if you're doing an all-on-4, then we can think about multi-unit abutments. What is the angulation of the multi-unit abutments? Everything can be planned in the software, and then you can do it. The resultant, then you get a guide. If it is a soft tissue or a mucosa supported guide, you just take the guide, seat it across, ask the patient to bite on the guide. There will be teeth on the guide. Ask the patient to bite on the guide. Then you stabilize the guide. Then there will be a portion which is called as it will be a top portion which is there, which you have to remove it. It's like a click one. You remove it out, and then you can do this one. You can take and you can do the implant placement, and then that is how the implant placement has been done.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Sir, in delayed placement of implants, immediate loading can be done in mandible posterior region after 1 week of placement, or is it after healing collar is visible?
In delayed placement of implant, immediate loading can be done. Yes, of course, it can be done. You know what, normally when we talk about, you know what, I'm not a great, you know what, I'm not a clinician to do these things, but most of the time, whatever presentations and whatever discussions I've had with my friend is that you place an implant, once you do an implant, you load the implant on the same day, or you load it after, I think after 3 weeks, because that is the time that the day 1 to 3 weeks is very crucial, is when your osseointegration starts place. And if you do it in between 1 week it is, you know what, within 3 days, 1 week, 4 days, and all those things, then you're going to have trouble with the osseointegration. That is what is my understanding, doctor.
Thank you, doctor. Friends, we are open to the question and answer session. We have 5 minutes more of our time before we wind up the presentation. I request you to kindly post all your questions in the Q&A box.
Yeah, I think in the chat there is one Dr. Ketaki Kyale. Can you tell please dual scan how to take it again? If you're talking about dual scan protocol which has to be done, as I told you, the first thing is that you do a denture for the patient. Then you are the patient and you put additional markers onto it in 3 or 4 places or 5 places, what I talk about. Then you send it to the CBCT center, or if you have your own CBCT, and then ask the radiologist to put the denture in the patient's mouth, take a bite, put a bite, and then take a scan with the denture in the patient's mouth. Be very clear, with the denture in the patient's mouth, with the radiographic markers. Without the radiographic markers, there is no fun in taking a CBCT scan, because the acrylic has got very low Hounsfield unit. You will not be able to visualize it in the software. So what you do is, that is why we put radiographic markers there. Then once you put your radiographic markers and take the first CBCT with the patient's mouth, the denture and the patient's mouth is taken. The second one is remove the denture out of the patient's mouth and take individual dentures. Don't put upper and lower denture together and then do a scan. Take the separate scans of individual dentures. Ask the radiologist to tell that you need to take a scan only of the maxilla or only of the mandible, only of the maxillary denture or one of the mandibular dentures. And then there will be 2 separate sets of DICOM files. So he will send you 2 CDs. So you need to send it to your planning person. They will do the needful for you. I hope I am clear in this one.